All right, folks, the Negro Leagues announced that they're going to be integrating the records. Sorry, Major League Baseball is going to be integrating the Negro League records into their records after segregating them all of these years. That's right. It took a 3-year research project on Major League Baseball to do this. As a result, Josh Gibson, the great hitter and player in the Negro Leagues, he is now going to be Major League Baseball's career leader with a .372 batting average, surpassing that of vehement racist Ty Cobb, his .367. He's going to be leading in several other categories as well, including career on-base percentage. That's going to be another one he'll be topping. And other Negro players will be also career slugging. Other Negro players are going to have their records also recognized. Josh's grandson, Sean Gibson, joins us right now. Sean, glad to have you on the show. Of course, the Alpha, the brothers reached out to me from the national office, and they said, hey, get Frat on the show. And I said, Alphas are always welcome on this show. So just get your initial thoughts on Major League Baseball. Let's be real clear. The real Major League stars were in the Negro Leagues, but for Major League Baseball to do right by these players for fans and for the future.
Yeah, you're right. We never considered the Negro League Baseball players. We always been considered major leaguers to our family. But Wednesday was a great day, not just for Josh Gibson, but for all the Negro League family members. This is a long time coming. As you mentioned, this actually started in 2020. The commissioner made the announcement to include Negro League stats into Major League Baseball record books. And now we're here 3.5 years later, and it's finally done. So it's a great day for Negro League family members, Negro League families, Negro League players, as well as fans. So I'm glad to see this happen.
And for so many people, and I've said for years and told folks, listen, they called the Major Leagues, but the Negro Leagues, they were not minor. Because when you look at the MVPs after Jackie Robinson came in 1947, the Negro League players won that almost every single year. They were the most talented players. And in fact, the records also show when the Negro League teams play the Major League teams, they beat them more than any other time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at the ones who made it to the majors. You're looking at Willie Mays, who played with the Birmingham Bears, Hank Aaron. Of course, the biggest name of all, Jackie Robinson. You know, as you mentioned, those players came from the Negro Leagues, and they were some of the most famous names in Major League Baseball. So a lot of the Major League Baseball players. Look at Satchel Paige. He came in his 50s and played in the major. So the top black players that we talk about now played in the Negro Leagues. And you're right. Some of the greatest baseball players that ever come into the majors came from the Negro Leagues, and now they're finally being recognized. It's unfortunate, though, that these records are coming down because, of course, most of the players are gone. But, you know, I know they're up in heaven. Celebrating and saying finally and about time that this is finally going on and this has happened in Major League Baseball.
Questions for our panel. Michael, you first.
Okay. Hey, thanks for coming on and sharing this information with us. Can you talk about the gentleman's agreement going back to 1887 that actually banned African-American players from Major League Baseball because you did have African-American players before 1887. Can you talk about that some, please?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're right. With this ban, you know, we all know who's the famous first baseball player, Moses Fleetwood Walker, right? And we all know he was the most famous in the early 1800s. But again, with segregation going on, it just has that time that happened that they wouldn't allow nobody else, you know. And I'm pretty sure Moses was probably, you know, one of the dominant players back then. And they knew that African-American players can play this game either with the white players or even better. And it was said that, you know, they stopped it back then. But as we all know, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who was the commissioner of Major League Baseball, denied over 3,400 African-Americans to participate in the major leagues. And so it was just a tragedy that, you know, that these players never had a chance to play.
Right. All right. Thank you.
So how do you think this might maybe bring black kids back to the sport? My nephew played baseball, but I think part of that, I mean, you know, I know so many people like my grandparents and others who loved baseball, and it was no small part because of Black players, but that representation has been lost, gone. The greatness of these Black players has been largely held up by Black communities. So what do you think this may mean for Black kids' interest and desire to play baseball?
Well, I hope this does a great, it does a lot for Black baseball. With these young kids nowadays, there's not a lot of Black kids playing baseball right now. A lot of Black kids are playing basketball and football. But right now we're trying to get more kids playing baseball. There's a new video game called MLB The Show that focuses on the Negro Leagues. So, it's more about educating these young people about the Negro Leagues. But I think right now, even with Major League Baseball, back in the 70s, it was around 27% of African-American baseball players in the major leagues. Now we're down to about 6 or 7%. And so, RBI programs and, like you said, your local communities having teams within the inner city, hopefully this will bring back the game. But also, I think now when you Google who is one of the top players in Major League Baseball, you're going to see people of color who look like them. They're taking the place of the Ty Cobbs and the Babe Ruths. So hopefully now our young people can understand that, learn the history of the game and also play the game can also be a great part of the game with these young people for today.
Yolanda?
So I think it's about damn time that Major League Baseball recognizes Black players. But here's the truth. Whenever we go into white spaces, we dominate. All you got to do is look at Venus and Serena, Tiger Woods. You look at when we're allowed. When they had segregated football, they get a Black guy in football. Next thing you know, the Southwest Conference got Black people everywhere because they just want to win. So I would actually not at all be surprised if the white people had to play against the Black people, then Black people probably have all the spaces. That's just what happens. And I'll also say that the Black people, the ones that got into Major League Baseball before it was more of a thing, think of the racism that they had to deal with, the anti-Blackism, how they were treated. So they did these things having to deal with racism from even their teammates. Because trust me, there were people who believed that they were there and they shouldn't be there. But when it comes to are Black kids going to play baseball more, I know, for example, here in Houston, the cost of going to a Major League Baseball game is not affordable. It's just not. But anybody can have a football and they can play football out in the streets. And even when I go look at college baseball, say at the University of Houston, you just don't see a lot of Black people because it's never been pushed to us like that. At least when there was the Negro Leagues, the kids knew I can play baseball and I can play in the Negro Leagues. So I think that we have to do a lot. But I also think that we just don't know the history. Like sort of generally, we don't talk about history, and they damn sure ain't learning in school now with this attack on DEI. So I think it's going to take a lot from our community in order for us to get Black kids to appreciate baseball and to play baseball, is what I think.
Sean?
Well, you made a lot of good points. The first thing is, as you mentioned, that, the segregation, right? I've been talking about this for the past 2 days. One thing I want people to understand is that when you see the Negro League stats, they earned those stats. They weren't given those stats, they earned those stats. Josh Gibson did 466 in 1943, he earned that. And as you mentioned, Negro League baseball players had to endure a lot just to even get to the game and play the game. They had to endure racism, not being able to go to certain hotels, not being able to go to certain restaurants, dealing with the KKK. And they had to endure all of that and still go to the stadium and still play the game at a high level. Major League Baseball players had to do all that. And so when you talk about the difference between Major League Baseball players and Negro League Baseball players, our guys had to do over a lot of trials and tribulations just to play the game of baseball and play it very well. But for our young people, though, again, like you said, the main thing is right now is that now they will be able to see, do the research, understand. And I think the most important thing is that we have to understand the Negro Leagues is not just about stats. It's a whole bunch of history that come with the Negro Leagues. It's all about the history as well of the numbers. It's not just the numbers, but it's also the history as well.
Well, absolutely. Well, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm happy for all the descendants of Negro League players, and again, for the new generation of folks to understand and appreciate the fantastic play of these athletes. And so it's always wonderful. For folks who don't know, are there any statues or monuments out there for Josh Gibson outside of the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City that if people want to visit? Can you tell them about that?
Yeah, there's several. There's a statue in D.C. At the Nat Stadium. People always ask, well, why is there a statue of Josh Gibson in Washington, D.C.? Because the Homestead Grays actually played half their games in Washington, D.C. It was a gentleman's agreement to play half their games in Washington, D.C. There's several landmarks here in Pittsburgh as well. But for all the other Negro League baseball players, there's several landmarks in different cities. St. Louis has a Cool Papa Bell statue. Wilmington, Delaware, Judy Johnson. So there's a lot of things coming up. And actually, coming up this month, Roland, you may or may not know, there's a huge game going on in Rickwood at the Birmingham, which is the oldest stadium. Which is the oldest stadium in the Negro Leagues. And so I co-founded an organization called the Negro Leagues Family Alliance, which is a group of family members who are working together as one voice. We will be in attendance there. Hopefully Willie Mays will be there. And we have two of our other players, excuse me, Mr. Ron Teasley, who's 97 years old, who plays with the New York Cubans, who will be there. So we're very excited to celebrate that at the oldest stadium in the Negro Leagues in Birmingham.
And that's taking place on Juneteenth, correct?
June 20th, yep.
June 20th. All right, then. Sean, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Frat.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, folks.
This is, so there's one from the Associated Press also. This is the one from CBS News that I posted. Statistics from Negro Leagues officially integrated into Major League Baseball books. Just a second, let's flip over to this. Statistics from Negro Leagues officially integrated into Major League Baseball books, Major League Baseball record books. This is from May 29th, 2024, May 29th, 2024. From CBSnews.com. I'm trying to close out all these ads and stuff popping, the videos popping up. In a milestone decision, decades in the making, Major League Baseball announced Tuesday that it is now incorporating statistics of Negro Leagues that operated in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s into record books. Okay, Negro Leagues that operated in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s into record books. This initiative is focused on ensuring that future generations of fans have access to the statistics and milestones of all of those who made the Negro Leagues possible, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred said in a statement provided to the Associated Press. Black players were barred from Major League Baseball until Jackie Robinson broke the league's color barrier in 1947 when he joined the Brooklyn Dodgers. That breakthrough ultimately led to the Negro Leagues ending play in 1960. Quote, their accomplishments on the field will be a gateway to broader learning about this triumph in American history and the path that led to Jackie Robinson's 1947 Dodger debut. Rob Manfred said in his statement. Now, in 2020, in the wake of America's reckoning with racial injustice following the murder of George Floyd, Major League Baseball announced that it was elevating 7 Negro Leagues that operated from 1920 to 1948 to Major League status, a move at the time meant approximately 3,400 players in those Negro Leagues could be recognized by Major League Baseball for their on-field achievements. Wednesday's announcement, however, will take that a step further. The immediate impact of the incorporation will see Josh Gibson, one of baseball's greatest players, take multiple records from the likes of Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth per CBS Sports. Here's Josh Gibson. This is during the 12th annual East-West All-Star Game of the Negro Leagues. This is 1944. American baseball player Josh Gibson of the East team creates a cloud of dust as he slides into home plate during the fourth inning at Comiskey Park, Chicago, Illinois, on August 13th, 1944. West team's catcher Ted Ratcliffe is visible at right. Now, Josh Gibson will become the all-time leader in career batting average and at 372, passing Ty Cobb's mark of 366, according to CBS Sports. His career 718 slugging percentage will also be the all-time high mark now, surpassing Babe Ruth's previous record of 690, and he'll be the leader in career ops on base plus slugging percentage, with 1.177, passing Babe Ruth's mark of 1.164. Sean Gibson, who was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday with us, Sean Gibson is the great grandson of Josh Gibson. He told USA Today in a statement on Tuesday, when you hear Josh Gibson's name, now it's not just that he was the greatest player in the Negro Leagues, but one of the greatest of all time. These aren't just Negro League stats. They're Major League Baseball stats. Okay. Now, so read the rest of this piece here. And some people are saying, well, the Negro Leagues, those players, they didn't play with the best players. Well, that's what people have been saying about Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth and the rest of them for years. The white players didn't play with the best players. The best players were in the Negro Leagues. They were segregated out of baseball. Now, when we look at this history here, and I brought this up to Sean Gibson, Josh Gibson's great grandson, because I was able to ask him a question. It was a gentleman's agreement in 1887. It was a gentleman's agreement that banned African-American players from being signed to contracts, new African-American players from being signed to contracts in Major League Baseball. It was not a written rule. Okay. There is let me see. I looked at, I was looking at something on this. I think it was, History of Baseball and Civil Rights in America. This is at baseballhall.org. This is Baseball Hall of Fame. And it takes you throughout history. And it talks about the Moses Fleetwood Walker, okay, who was the last African-American player on an otherwise all-white Major League team until Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in 1947, right? But here's the thing: you can be an Afro-Cuban, or you could be Afro-Latino, and still be signed to a contract, okay? Or you could just say, you were Afro-Latino or something like that, and speak with an accent, and you could be signed to a contract. So this was specifically targeting African Americans, and this is, dealing with segregation. This gentleman's agreement was adopted shortly before Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896 U.S. Supreme Court case. The History of Baseball and Civil Rights in America. Okay, this is at baseballhall.org, and it takes you through this history here. 1865, 1876. So during the Reconstruction era, following the Civil War between the North and the South, America experiences an era known as Reconstruction. So we talk about this in my new class that starts up June 23rd that you can register for right now. Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. Okay. So we talk about this. All right, now, so I'm looking at a breaking news story. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee has announced that she has pancreatic cancer, because I'm looking at Roland's Instagram page. Okay, she announces she has pancreatic cancer. Okay. And she has released a statement. All right. So we're praying that she beats that. All right, now, 1878, long before Jackie Robinson came on the scene, Bud Fowler becomes the first black professional player to integrate white teams. Beginning in 1878, he will play in the minor leagues as a pitcher, catcher, and second baseman. Although Fowler, born in Fort Plain, a small town in upstate New York, he moved to Cooperstown, future site of the Hall of Fame, as a young boy. 1884, Moses Fleetwood Walker becomes the last black baseball player on an otherwise all-white major league team. Until Jackie Robinson in 1947. 1887, black players like Moses Fleetwood Walker would soon lose their place in baseball. In 1887, major league and minor league team owners adopted a secretive gentleman's agreement, or unwritten rule that said that no new contracts will be given to black ball players. Okay, so this wasn't a written rule. Okay, this was an unwritten rule that shut us out of Major League Baseball. This gentleman's agreement, similar to Jim Crow laws adopted by some American states, effectively forces black ball players out of all professional leagues by 1900. It's the same thing they did with horse racing. We dominated horse racing, won the Kentucky Derbies, won all the major races. The first Kentucky Derby ran in 1875. Oliver Lewis was a 19-year-old former slave. He won that, okay? But we were forced out of horse racing. There was an organized effort by jealous white men who were jealous of the type of money we were making to force us out of horse racing. 1896 U.S. Supreme Court case, Plessy versus Ferguson, rules that segregation by law is legal and advances the notion of separate but equal. This kind of segregation is known as de jure segregation, by law segregation. But in examining images of segregated water fountains, job advertisements that excluded African-American applicants, and even soda machines that prevented African-Americans from making purchases, this notion of quote unquote equal access and opportunity is proven to be false. Okay, so read the rest of this here. Then they go into the beginning of the Great Migration and World War I, and U.S. involvement in World War I starting in 1917. The history of baseball and civil rights in America. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Scroll down, we have my new Juneteenth lecture there. It's a 3-hour lecture. If you register for this class, you're going to get the Juneteenth lecture in digital download format, okay? But you can order it in DVD or digital download format. You can register for the first class I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Now, we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch these anytime. So even after the course is over with, you can still go back and watch the class, okay? A year from now, 2 years from now, you'll still have full access, and you can watch the class. This content is PG-13, so you can use this with your children. Okay, so it's not overly graphic. I don't do a lot of cursing or anything like that. And it's very visual. So there's articles that we reference, books that we reference. I show you usually the book references on the screen, so you don't have to buy any of the books if you don't want to. But register here. We're going to do a class introduction right now. I teach this at my online school, so you can register for this course. Click right here, register for full course at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We just posted a link here in the thread of the broadcast. You can also support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael. There's some like 5 or 6 fake African History Network Cash App accounts out there that I have identified, like these right here. Oh, and you can click on a Cash App link right here. Here's our QR code. Okay. And then here's our link for PayPal as well. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, finance our Sunday night show, the African History Network show. I usually do that Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our social media platforms as well. All right, we have to get out of here. Hopefully you learned a lot today. You can email me through the website if you have any questions, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll see you in class. Remember, right now is correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. And your understanding of politics is directly related to your understanding of history. Okay, so we'll see you in class. Listen to the African History Network show. And Wakanda, right now is correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.